Welcome back to Make Play Treasure. Today we're reading Enzo and the 4th of July Races by Garth Stein. It's nearly the 4th of July, which means it's time for the big race weekend. I love it when we go to the races on Independence Day because there are so many people and everybody is happy to see each other. And this year, Zoe is big enough to race on her own in the Kids Kart Challenge. It's a big race for Denny in the season points championship, but it's a bigger race for Zoe, who will be in her first race against other kids. What if I'm not fast enough? Zoe whispers into my ear. She's very fast, so I'm not concerned. She's been driving carts since she was nearly my size, but I can tell she isn't feeling confident, so I stay with her instead of following my instinct to chase the crows that are looking to steal food. I have never trusted a crow. The next morning, the crew is busy getting Denny's car prepared for the big race. This is what I love about the racetrack. The roar of engines, the smell of fuel and rubber, the dirt on everyone's faces, and the look of intensity in their eyes as they work on their cars to make them the fastest of the weekend. And I also like that sometimes someone drops a hot dog and doesn't notice. While Denny's car is being prepped, he takes Zoe to register for the Kids Kart Challenge. When the practice session is over, one of the fastest kids looks at the registration clipboard. Let's see who's going to get second place, he says boastfully. Hey, a girl signed up for the race. Girls aren't fast drivers. I guess she'll be our back marker. I growl softly at the kid, but he doesn't hear me because he's the kind of person who can only hear his own words. Let it go, Enzo, Denny says to me. We'll do our talking on the track. I let it go because Denny is much wiser than me and I trust his judgment, but I really want to bite the kid on his back marker. As we leave the kart track, Zoe breaks away and runs back to registration. She scratches her name off the entry list. When she rejoins us, Denny kneels down and puts his hand on her shoulder. A wise man once told me, he says to her, there is no dishonor in losing the race. There is only dishonor in not racing because you are afraid to lose. Zoe doesn't reply. I wonder if she's afraid. I hadn't thought so. She's very fast. But maybe it's something I don't understand because I'm a dog. I just don't want to, she says finally. I can hear in her voice that she really wants to do is cry. Okay then, Denny says after a moment. I respect your decision and I love you whether or not you race. Okay? Okay, Daddy. It's time for Denny's practice session. Denny's crew chief, Johnny Mac, and Zoe and I go to the stands to watch. We're all wearing radio headsets to protect our ears, but also so we can hear Denny call in to Johnny Mac about how his car is driving. As Denny's car races around the track, we can see that he's not as fast as the other cars. How's the car, Denny? Johnny Mac says into the microphone. You're way off pace. Something with the setup, we hear Denny's voice crackle through the headsets. She's loose, real loose, and she's pushing through turn 9. Okay, bring her in, Johnny Mac says, shaking his head. I'm not sure it's the car that needs fixing, he tells us. I wish Zoe would get out there and give it a shot, Denny says to Johnny Mac, even if she doesn't do well. If that's what you're thinking about on the track, then don't race, Johnny Mac says. If your head's not in the right place, you're putting yourself and other drivers in danger. You're right, Denny says. Maybe I should sit this one out. I'm distracted. Johnny Mac nods, but he doesn't seem happy. Why did you change your mind about racing, Johnny Mac asked Zoe. A boy and said girls aren't fast, Zoe answers sheepishly. What a lug nut, Johnny Mac cries. There's some awesome girl racers out there who could teach that kid a thing or two about speed. It's true. Shirley Muldowney, Lynn St. James, Janet Guthrie, and Danica Patrick, to name a few, I've had the privilege of watching on television. I know how fast you are, Johnny Mac tells her. Your dad knows. Heck, even Enzo knows. I barked twice. See, he says, but none of us matter, Zoe, because none of us are you. You have to believe in yourself. Denny doesn't look like he's listening, but I can tell he is. I nudge Zoe with my muzzle, and she pats my head. Then she looks up at Johnny Mac determined. I believe in me, Johnny Mac, she says. Then go get some practice, Johnny Mac says, and put your name back on the entry list so I can get your father to believe in himself, too, because I believe you both can win your races this weekend. Zoe's cart zips this way and that and around the turns. Round and round she flies by so quickly that the bored teenagers take notice. Around and around until we are all grinning. She pulls into the pits and climbs out of the cart. "You're up there with the best of them," one of the teenagers says. "You should definitely race." Zoe nods and puts her name back on the entry list. I see Denny watching us. I know he's proud of her too. Qualifying for the races is very tense for me because both Zoe and Denny are qualifying at the same time. I have to run back and forth to make sure they're both driving well. They don't realize how much work it is for me to look after them. But maybe neither of them did so well. They both qualify mid-pack. Maybe I didn't help them after all. I'm worried about Zoe because she hasn't yet learned how much she has to believe in herself to become a champion. "Not bad for a girl," the fast kid boasts, "but you'll never catch me." "I'll do my talking on the track," Zoe says, which I think is a good answer. After the racing is finished for the day, we go out onto the track. When we reach turn 2, Denny gets down on his knees and feels the pavement with his hands. He studies the turn from every angle. "Did you lose something?" a corner worker asks as he rolls up his flags. "I lost about a half a second," Denny says, "and I'm pretty sure I lost it right here in this turn." "You know," the corner worker says, "the fast guys brake a little earlier here, and they get on the throttle sooner. The more speed you have here, the more you'll carry over there." "What do you think, Zoe?" Denny asks. "Does that look like a half a second to you?" Zoe scratches her chin and squints at the tarmac. She looks just like her dad. "Just about a half a second," she says. "I think so, too." Everyone has stopped working except Denny and Zoe. They crawl around the cart track looking for half seconds. I love Zoe and Denny, but this is too much work for me. I've been running around all day in the hot sun watching them qualify. I doze by our neighbor's fire, which is much easier than searching for half seconds. It's finally time. Denny's race begins first. It takes him a few laps to learn the new way through turn 2. But when he gets it down, he works his way to the front of the pack and leads the second half of the race. He pulls away from the pack of cars behind him and takes the checkered flag without a worry. He waves to the crowd in victory as he takes his cool down lap. Zoe's race is next and is much tougher. It's hard for her to get past the other carts, but she and Denny must have found the half second on the cart track last night. Soon she's neck and neck with the fast kid. The two of them leave all the other kids in their dust. Try as she might, Zoe can't get past the fast kid. It's almost the last lap as they come into a sweeping turn, and Zoe appears to lift off the throttle. Her cart slows, and the fast kid dives into the turn. I don't understand why she's letting him get away, but then she jumps on the throttle early, swoops inside, and easily zips past his cart. Oh, the fast kid is not happy, and he bangs his steering wheel. Zoe knows he's not thinking about racing anymore. He's worried about losing, and that's all she needs. Zoe wins by nearly half a lap. Everybody in the crowd cheers. I bark twice. Zoe looks good on the top step of the podium. She's full of smiles, but Denny and Johnny Mac are smiling even more. "I guess you kicked my butt," the fast kid says to Zoe after the award ceremony. "Well," Zoe says with a laugh, "your butt's pretty big, so it wasn't hard to kick." "Yeah, I shouldn't have said that about girls not being fast. Sorry." Zoe accepts his apology with great dignity. "But how did you do that in turn 8, he asks. "You were behind me, and then suddenly you were driving away. That's some trick." "My dad and a corner worker helped me find a half second last night," Zoe says. "Want me to show you?" "Yeah." Here's what I love about the 4th of July races. I love seeing old friends, making new friends, and spending time with my family. I love learning secrets from corner workers and learning how to believe in myself. I love the hot sun and the smoldering campfires and the dropped hot dogs, but most of all, I love watching the fireworks at the end of race night with Denny and Zoe, who are my favorite people of all. The end. Hope you enjoyed this book. And remember to like and subscribe so you can keep up with our reading events and activities. Catch you next time on Make Play Treasure. Bye!